and access 24/7. Check us out on YouTube, Facebook, and X. And for the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. And that's just a sampling. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. For laptops, mobile phones, and tablets, download the Roku app. National Streaming Sports, live and on demand sports talk for America.
This show is brought to you by BetUS.com. 125% off your first 3 deposits, 30 years experience, secure site, wagering for all sports, including during the games and futures. SeatGeek provides you the best prices on sports and music events, game tickets, and concerts. Use NSS promo code to get $20 off your first ticket. Keep using the NSS promo code when purchasing tickets for great deals in the future. In Fanatics at nessp.info for your favorite teams, sportswear. Click on the link, and while you're there, check out our national streaming sports merchandise. Yes, sir. Remember then, it's Mac Man and J Train bringing you your sports memory show. And what do you think, James? That's our first social media commercial as we start doing our thing here and going to major markets and advertising our great sports network.
Mac, I think we're heading in the right direction, man. That's a beautiful commercial. I really like it, man. That's stepping definitely in the right direction. Yeah,
I think so too. And you know, folks, our SeatGeek, as I said in the commercial there, go to SeatGeek. Just hit the promo code NSS, and you get great deals on all your ticket prices. And keep using in the future for great deals. ZodiacTV, check them out. It's a choice of a new generation for sports and music. And, of course, you know, check out our merchandise while you're there, right? I'm just self-promoting the hell out of us right now, James. But anyway, let's get to our sports memory topics. James is going to start us off with the catcher of the Yankees during this 69 through 78 or 77, if I'm not mistaken, Captain Thurman Munson.
Yes, and that's actually 11 seasons. I think he went from 69 to 79. Unfortunately, that 79's year he passed. Thurman Munson, man, what a great catcher and even better man, I believe. Just looking at the history that this guy started out, he was a highly touted 5-star recruit in high school. He lettered in both football, basketball, but his coaches wanted him to play. I mean, he loved. It wasn't his coaches; it was him. He loved baseball, so he wanted to play baseball. But he was highly recruited, and it was locally at home. This is kind of like his story. This guy loved being from Akron, Ohio. He wanted to be near family, so he wanted to stay, but he wanted to play baseball. So he was recruited at Kent State, and that's where he went to go play. He got drafted, and he went to the minor leagues and played for by the Yankees. He played for the Yankees. That was his whole career. He played from the beginning to the end to the Yankees. Got called up, I believe, in 69, I think, or 70. I'm not sure. But either way, he went en route to being Rookie of the Year. And probably, again, one of the best catchers that the game has seen. And although the team wasn't good, he was good. The next year, he became an all-star. And he one of 7. And he went to maybe 7 all-stars. Let's just say they just didn't really have a good team. They didn't have many good seasons until they got up until the point of his rookie. My apologies, man. I'm losing it here.
That's all right. That's all right.
His AL MVP year, and that was 1976. 1976. He was able to. He was a great hitter. He was averaging 300. He averaged He had 3 seasons from 75, 76, and 77 where he averaged 300 and hit over 100 RBIs. And that's the first, be honest with you, since Bill Dickey in the 1930s. And nobody has done that since until Mike Piazza in 96 to 2000. But, man, this guy here, such a great catcher, man. And I think they gave him a nickname. I don't know if it was like the Wall or something like that, because he was just a stout guy. And he played that area like defensively very well. So good with his glove that he got 3 Golden Gloves as well. That was around that same time. Just a great guy, man. And I mean, a lot of people, what they did, I did some research. The team said he was kind of a grumpy guy.
Yeah.
Like he was like a little grumpy, and enough to where he wasn't afraid. He wasn't afraid to tell anybody how it was, or telling people like, look, you get your stuff together and make sure you're doing what you're supposed to do. And they made him team captain. They hadn't had a team captain since Lou Gehrig when Lou Gehrig retired in 39. And so that's what I've read. I mean, I don't know if there's anything you could tell me different, but he was team captain, and they got to the World Series in his MVP season in 76. But unfortunately, they came to a wall when they went up against the Big Red Machine in Cincinnati Reds, and they got swept. But it wasn't because of him. Some of the players said, if we played like he played, we would have won that World Series. If we played, he just gave his all. He had everything. He put everything he could into that team, but they got swept. And I think he batted over 400 in that series. Man, it was just incredible. But it's just, unfortunately, it just wasn't enough. And so he, in the offseason, he said, "Get me another player aside of me that we can go do some things." And that player was he recruited Reggie Jackson. And Reggie Jackson, unfortunately, said something in the media that said, "I'm the straw that stirs the drink." And it was like a 4-page article that said that he virtually just was kind of downing Munson's leadership. And so that didn't start them off on the right foot going into 77 season. But yet they put aside their differences, and they didn't become friends, but they had enough admiration and respect for each other that they know they needed each other to do this. And man, they got another pennant out of it. And then of course they went 6 games against the LA Dodgers and won his first World Series and Reggie Jackson's 4th. So man, I'm just impressed with this guy as a catcher. And they went on and did the same thing the next year in 77 against the same team in the same amount of games. But unfortunately, as with time, he's 32. Is that considered over the hill in baseball? Not really. But for a catcher, that position is brutal on the body. And so he wasn't an all-star anymore. He was passed up for all-star for 78 and 79. And this guy was a family guy. he would go back and forth home from New York to Akron by flight. He wanted to get home so bad. He learned to be a pilot. And so he had a prop plane that he would go back and forth back home, but he ended up doing so well, and he bought another plane. He bought a jet engine plane, and he was practicing flying that plane. He was practicing landing, and he thought there were some issues with it. And unfortunately, Thurman Munson died in trying to land the plane, and it was just an unfortunate thing. But this was a guy. He's going to be remembered as arguably one of the greatest catchers of the game, a great family man off the field, and just a loved person within that organization. They retired his number 15. He finished with 113 home runs, 701 RBIs, 286 batting average. Again, he batted 300 and 100 RBIs 3 seasons in a row. Just a great guy. During his reign, he was compared to the likes of Carlton Fisk and Johnny Bench.
Yeah.
But he'll be forever remembered as a great catcher and a great man.
Well, there was big rivalry between first him and Carlton Fisk. I mean, you know, there is a film clip of Carlton Fisk sliding into Thurman Munson running over Carlton Fisk at home.
He knocked him out, right?
They just went at it. I don't know if he knocked him out or not, but he sure was jumping on Fisk and punching the hell out of him. And that was the Yankees and the Red Sox of the 70s. You know, there's not a rivalry like that anymore. I mean, you could say San Diego and LA, but it's not. That's the fans. Between two teams, the Red Sox and the Yankees of the 70s just plain out did not like each other at all. And Munson hated Carlton Fisk. And I think the feelings were mutual there because of the rivalry. And you could see, you know, Nettles would get in fights with you know, Bill Lee. And you know, there was always fights happening. And if you look at Sparky Lyle's book called The Bronx Zoo, it'll I mean, it's a great book. If you got a chance, pick it up, people. It's a great look at how the Yankee characters were at that time. And Boston and the Yankees, I mean, it was a rivalry. It was like Baltimore, Pittsburgh on the field. They were going to fight. And that's just the way it was. And you mentioned Reggie Jackson. Reggie Jackson, as you said those things about Thurman Munson. And Thurman Munson was ticked. And when he came over, they straightened it out. Munson knew they needed that one more power-hitting guy in the lineup, and especially him being a left-hander and the Yankee short porch at Yankee Stadium. They knew, and the World Series proved it when he hit 3 home runs in that one World Series game. But Munson was a premier hitter. I remember watching him, and as you said, he did bat over I think it was 450 versus the Reds in that 76 World Series. He was the first time anybody, first all time still, that had 9 singles in the World Series. He was just a great hitter, a little power, but he never swung for the bases. I think the most home runs he hit was 20. I think another year he had 18 and 15. So he wasn't really a power hitter, but he was a base hitter, a doubles hitter, and that's how he made his living as an offensive player. Good defensively, a lot better than people think. You know, he like you said, 3 times he had the Golden Glove. And Munson was that rough guy. I mean, he was that guy that if you weren't going to play the way you're supposed to play, you might as well pack your bags and leave, because he didn't want to hear it. He didn't want to hear anybody.
Right.
So the only guy that was really loud was Reggie Jackson on that team. I mean, Craig Nettles was kind of the comedian of the Yankees in the 70s. Sparky Lyle was also a comedian. And then you had Chambliss, Randolph, and Roy White, who were just gentlemen. They didn't get involved. They didn't fight. They're not going to fight. And, of course, Chambliss, White, and Randolph contributed greatly. But Munson was a backbone. You know, I was reading the article of the plane crash. And, you know, some of the Yankee front office said Munson thinks he's a better pilot than what he is. And they tried to stop him from flying his own plane. And he didn't put the flaps up to slow down when he was coming in for that landing. He clips a tree, hits a stump, and the plane bursts into flames. There were two other guys in there that got out. They were burned, but they got out. And they tried to go back to save Thurman Munson, and they couldn't get him out. And then, they had to get away because the plane burst into flames. And, of course, Munson passed away. So
the unfortunate part about that,
go ahead.
the unfortunate part about that is that it read that he had a cervical injury from that plane, and he couldn't move. He was immobilized. He was paralyzed. So had he survived, he likely would have been paralyzed.
Right. So, I mean, again, is he a Hall of Famer? I mean, if you take him from, the time he came, for that short time that he was the catcher for the Yankees, and as you said, he got called up at 69, played in 70-year, Rookie of the Year. If you take that in consideration, just that period while he was a catcher alive, I mean, there was no one really better than him. So maybe he does get in the Hall of Fame eventually. He probably should be in the Hall of Fame right now. But you know how back then, James, they didn't say, okay, you got sick and you got cancer, or you died, and we're going to put you in. Like it's done today a lot, believe it or not, in all sports that were a lot less better or a lot less of a mainstay than Thurman Munson was for the Yankees. So it was different back then. So maybe the retirement home puts him in. We'll see. I mean, it would be, I think it's well deserved. But great catcher, captain, and I'm not sure if there was a captain in between that time, between Lou Gehrig and him. I mean, there were a lot of great players, but I don't remember them saying Mickey Mantle or DiMaggio was a captain. I don't remember, to be honest with you. So there you
Nothing
go.
I read or watched said that. I mean, he was the last one. I mean, he was the next one after Lou Gehrig.
Right.
Yeah.
So
in 39, that's a long time.
Yeah, they don't just give away.
That speaks volumes of who he was. That speaks volumes of who he was.
And I don't think there was another one until Derek Jeter, if I'm not mistaken. So there you go. They don't give out captain. And that's why it's such an honor for these guys to get that award. So let's jump into football, James. The Los Angeles Rams of the 70s, the fearsome foursome, Deacon Jones. I mean, they had so many great players on those teams, but they always came up short, right? So the fearsome foursome was Deacon Jones, Rosie Greer, Loomer Lunday, and of course, Merlin Olsen. Now, they weren't the original fearsome foursome. They were the most popular. The Giants, they called that a fearsome foursome in an article one time. And Detroit had the original name of the fearsome foursome with Alex Karras and three other guys. But this, of course, was the most popular. I mean, they met at the quarterback. These guys were all about the defensive line on that team during those early years. They won 6 straight Western Division conference titles. So what happens when Chuck Knox comes in after George Allen leaves? And Chuck Knox, of course, was also a great defensive coach, just like George Allen was. They end up picking up John Hadle from the San Diego Chargers. They go 12-2 that year. Not only that, I mean, you had him going 12-2. You have Merlin Olsen winning Defensive Player of the Year. Roman Gabriel was traded to Philly to make room for John Hadle, and he had a great year there. Harold Jackson they pick up Jack Youngblood, they pick up Isaiah Robertson, but they lose in the first round of the playoffs to Dallas. And what you'll get the theme here is that they had to go up against Dallas and the Minnesota Vikings, which were the two best teams in the NFC during this time period. So the Rams were always playing second fiddle to these guys. In 1974, they trade Hadle and they pick up James Harris, which I'm not exactly sure if he's not the first black quarterback. He's one of the first black quarterbacks for the Rams. I mean, he is the first black quarterback for the Rams and one of the first black quarterbacks in the league. They go 10-4, and they beat Washington in the playoffs, but they end up losing the NFC championship game. So Lawrence McCutcheon, Jack Youngblood, Fred Dreyer, Isaiah Robinson, and Dave Elmendorf give the Rams 6 All-Pro selections. And 75, their defense their defense allows the fewest points in NFL history, and they win their another division title. And they end up playing Minnesota in the championship and losing. 1977, they win the title again, and 79 they move to Anaheim, and again they win their sixth division title, and they finally make it to the Super Bowl. End up losing to the Pittsburgh Steelers in 1979. A great team. Hard. It's hard to. I don't know. I'm trying to think of today's team that might be like that, right? Maybe the Dallas Cowboys, who win the division or are right there every year and end up losing every year in the playoffs or in the championship game. I guess you could say that's maybe a modern day Los Angeles Rams, right? So
maybe you can say 2000s the Eagles when they went to 4 straight NFC championships or something like that.
There you go. So I mean, it's they're second fill. They got a great team. They're just second fill. I mean, if you think about Lawrence McCutcheon and you have Eric Dickerson, right, and all these great players like Detroit had, and they just can't get it over the edge until 79, and then they end up meeting the steel curtain. So I added up Deacon Jones's unofficial sack record. Right, there was no sacks back then. He would be second all time behind Bruce Smith with 175 sacks. Bruce Smith had 200. Deacon Jones got traded to the Chargers, and he ended up playing at the end with the Washington Redskins. But what a guy. Invented the head slap. He invented the word sack. He said that comes from Deacon Jones. So, as I said, as we were talking, I mean, this team was very good. They just weren't good enough. It's all about timing, James. You know what I'm saying? It's all about timing, right? If Dallas didn't meet Dallas that one year, didn't meet Minnesota one of those years before 79, maybe they get into the Super Bowl. Maybe they win a Super Bowl. I don't know. But in sports, it has a lot to do with timing. So that was something that was very interesting as I'm remembering watching, the Los Angeles Rams back then.
Those type of losses are heartbreaking because that you're one of the best teams. I mean, if not the best, but there's always somebody ahead of you. I mean, we could just look at comparatively to Michael Jordan during his era, the 6 championships, Charles Barkley, Patrick Ewing, Karl Malone, those guys, if Michael Jordan had not been there, those guys probably would have a championship at some point.
Yeah. It just and even today you look at Patrick Mahomes and and Lamar Jackson, right? If the Chiefs aren't there, if they're playing another team, maybe they go to the Super Bowl. But it's that time. The Patriots, another great example, right? With Tom Brady. I mean,
Josh Allen. You mentioned Patrick Mahomes. Josh Allen played the game of his life in 2021 or 2022, whatever year in that divisional round, and it wasn't his fault. His defense gave Patrick Mahomes 13 seconds. 13 seconds. And that was 13 seconds enough to get down and get a field goal and win that game.
That is true. I mean, it's a lot about timing and who you're going up against. We're almost at the halfway point, so I'm going to play a couple commercials, folks. We're going to be right back in a minute and a half, so stick with us.
Yo, you already know it's your boy LCF. I just tore it up for ZodiacTv. Shout out DJ Epps. Oh man, it was great, man. We did an interview. Then I hit the stage. The crowd was amazing. They gave me all their energy. I gave them that energy back. Linked up with some dope artists in the building. ZodiacTv, man. Hey, we gonna celebrate for the rest of the night, you know what I mean? With some Bel Air. Shout out my nigga Rose. Holla at your boy. I mean, boss shit, you already know. But we tore it up, man. Performance was amazing. The set was amazing. ZodiacTv, shout out y'all boys, man. Thank you for having me. You already know I'm gonna come back. Your boy finna come back. Go to work. Did it all for nothing. Make sure y'all go get that single, available on all platforms. Let's go.
My girl just told me that she pregnant, we expecting the shit. So I had to buckle down, accelerate, no slowing down. Some people, that's why I don't come around.
We're gonna call anyone that loves you. You're going to ask them if you can use their card to buy concert tickets because your card's maxed out.
Okay.
If they say yes, you get the tickets.
I can't call my parents because they already think I make bad financial decisions. So I think I'll call one of my friends.
Okay.
I'm a little nervous. I feel tingly.
What's your not
inside.
answer?
Giovanna?
Yes.
I was on SeatGeek earlier and I saw 2 tickets for Olivia Rodrigo at a really, really, really good price. So
Oh my god.
I maxed my credit card out by accident last week. Do you think I could use yours to buy the tickets?
Oh my god, yes.
Did I what?
Yeah, you got the tickets. You got the tickets.
I just want tickets. We're going to go to the concert together. Giovanna, I'll call you later. Love you. Thanks for picking up. Oh my god. I'm going to see Olivia Rodrigo.
Yes, thank you, SeatGeek.
There you go. Bad financial decisions. Yes. I was trying to tell the woman on the phone not to do it, but she did it anyway, James. I don't know. I love playing the Zodiac commercial for you because you are mesmerized by that commercial. I mean, the Bel Air. I mean, is Bel Air a thing? I mean, do we drink Bel Air when everything's going good?
Mac, I'm becoming AARP is about to call me next year, so I'm falling out of the loop. I have no idea.
I guess Bel Air is the drink of choice when you're celebrating now. I don't know, but there you go. Zodiac and SeatGeek, 2 sponsors of our network now. So we ended up in the NFL, and we're going to push on to college for a minute. And a lot of this stuff I can do off memory because I was around when this was happening. And I've always been a Fighting Irish fan, right? I've always been a Notre Dame fan. I'm Irish, so as I was born and brought up, the Fighting Irish was a big thing from the 20s. I mean, it's always been big, right? They call them Subway Notre Dame fans, Fighting Irish fans. People love Notre Dame just because of the ethnic, part of the team being Irish. So I came around in the 70s, started really watching football, NFL, and college. And Notre Dame at that time, good luck for me, was really good, as opposed to the Giants, who were really bad. So I enjoyed Saturdays a lot more than I enjoyed Sundays, to be honest with you. And, at that time, there was a quarterback named Joe Theismann. His real name was Thiesman, believe it or not. The public relations guy changed the name to Theismann, hoping he would win the Heisman Trophy. Theismann for the Heisman, right? He ended up finished second to Jim Plunkett, who was the Heisman Trophy winner that year. Behind him was Archie Manning. So those were the top 3 quarterbacks coming out of college. And, of course, as you know, Jim Plunkett went on to win a couple Super Bowls. Theismann won at least 1 Super Bowl, was in 2. And, Archie Manning had the bad luck of going to a very bad team in New Orleans Saints, where he was running for his life most of the time of his career. So Aaron Parsegian was the coach then. And if you watched him on the sidelines, he wasn't really intense. He was kind of laid back, but the guy was a winning coach. He came over to Notre Dame back in 1964, and he almost won the title in his first year. And it's not good. Notre Dame had 3 losing seasons, and Aaron Parsegian steps in the first year and almost wins the title, comes in second. I mean, this is how good this coach was. And, let's see, he won 2 national championships in 11 years. There aren't too many coaches.
They won one in 66, yeah.
Yeah, there ain't too many coaches that do that. I mean, how many coaches come in and win 2 Super Bowls in 10 years or 2 national championships in 11 years? No, that's very unheard of. He has a second best percentage, second only to Newt Rockne, who was probably the greatest Notre Dame coach anyway, as it goes. He ends up in the College Football Hall of Fame. So Aaron Parsegian, after that, and the 4th most wins in the history of Notre Dame anyway. So after that, he just goes on and he starts broadcasting. I mean, I was surprised, as you see today, right? A lot of coaches, James, go into broadcasting like Bill Belichick just recently has done, right? And they get that itch and they got to get on the sidelines again. And there's no doubt in my mind, Bill Belichick will be back on the sidelines probably this coming year. And you see a lot of coaches that fight this off. Some go back, some don't. Bill Cowher didn't go back. But there's a lot of them. And the Giants almost talked him into it, believe it or not, way back when. But, I mean, when you get something like that in your blood, it's hard to get out. I mean, he was a player, a coach, and a great coach at that. So, yeah, I look at like Deion Sanders, right? Deion Sanders, great player. He did do some broadcasting, and then he goes back and he starts coaching college football again. Now he's coaching the Buffalo, the Colorado Buffaloes right now, and there's talk of him moving up into the pros too.
Yeah, I mean, I could see him going into the pros, but I think he wants to be. Leon is a great leader. He's a proven winner, and I think he wants to be a proven winner at the level where he is first before he heads up to the pros. Mm-hmm. But yeah, man. But talking. I mean, are we still talking about Notre Dame?
Yes.
Oh man, going back into Notre Dame though, just talking about them in regards to that first year. I mean, in the 70s, being how dominant they were in the 70s. Wow, I mean, Joe Theismann was pretty good, and I mean he's actually very good. And like you say, he came in second to the Heisman, but they had that one loss really hurt them. They were one loss team. It hurt them in the national championship. They finished second in the AP polls, but that one loss against was it USC?
Yep.
Yeah, that one of the rivals, man.
In the ring.
One of the big rivals, USC. That's still to this day one of their biggest rivals. I mean, you go back, talk about when they played Reggie Bush in 2005, and could have won that game with Brady Quinn. They didn't, unfortunately. With the tush push, they got they got the quarterback liner into the end zone at the end. Yeah, but Notre Dame back then, man, I'll tell you, being a child born in 75, I watched them in the 80s with Rocket Ismail, Tim Brown, those guys, and in the 90s with Jerome Bettis, Reggie Brooks. I was a huge fan of Notre Dame at that time, man. It's just like how dominant they were. And I really hated Michigan. I hated Ohio State. Those to me, those three teams were like always in the mix during those eras. But in 1973, they went on a running style. You're talking about Ara, is it Parsegian?
Yes.
All right, Ara Parsegian, the coach, he had a dominant rushing attack with the quarterback, Tom Clement. He had 360 yards. The fullback, Wayne Bullock, he had 700 yards. Art Best had 750 yards. And Eric Pennick had 586 yards.
Yeah.
This was just a dominant rushing. Nobody was really stopping them. But man, I tell you, they went undefeated that year, and they ended up playing Alabama. They got to the Sugar Bowl against Alabama, and that was a very highly closely contested game. It came down to the wire to where they one extra point missed by Alabama cost them a national championship. It was one extra point they missed, and they were up by 2 points. The last drive, Tom Clement went down 11 plays, 79 yards, and they kick a field goal and win by 1 point. That had to be devastating to know that, especially if you're the kicker, if you're the coach, you just lose a championship. If you're as competitive as Bear Bryant was, man, I would be hot. But again, hats off to Notre Dame. They won that championship. They deserved it. And like you said, they had several years where they were in the top 10. And then going into 1977, Joe Montana. I mean, they had guys, Ross Browner, Willie Fry, Bob Golick. I didn't know who Bob Golick was until I was watching Saved by the Bell. And he was an actor. I didn't know who he was. I looked into this. I was like, this guy's pretty big to be on TV. And couldn't find out he played for the Raiders or the Browns. Who was it?
Bob Golick. Well, I think you're talking about the Eagles. Bob Golick, the tackle, the defensive tackle. Is that what you're talking about? Or he was
a linebacker, I think.
Yeah, Golick and Greeny were on. If that's the one you're talking about, the morning show.
No, not that goalie.
Oh,
Yeah,
he
that's for
played
the
for Notre
Eagles.
Dame. He played for
But
Notre
Bob,
Dame.
I think it's his relative.
Brother.
Yeah,
I think it's his brother. Yes,
his brother.
yeah.
He was an All-American with Notre Dame. But anyway, they were dominant on defense. They played in the 4-3, and of course, none other than the comeback kid, Joe Montana.
Right,
man, what a great quarterback. I mean, that year they weren't number one all the way through the season, and they had a couple of games where Joe Montana had to pull them back. They were respectively against Purdue and Clemson. That Purdue game, they had to come back in the fourth quarter, 17 points.
Yep.
He came back and they won the game. And against Clemson, they were down respectively against Clemson 10 points. And he came back. Joe Montana. This is a going theme for Joe Montana. He went into the pros doing this.
Yeah.
And as you know, for the 49ers, in that Super Bowl in 1988 against Cincinnati, the last drive to John Taylor, that touchdown, that's if it wasn't for that, like you said, people who get in great teams get in great teams' way. If it wasn't for that drive for the 49ers, Boomer Esiason will probably have a Super Bowl.
That's very true. And you talk about Theismann during his time there, great running quarterback. They ran an option, and he would run like great. He was a punt returner when he ended up eventually coming to the Redskins. He's great running quarterback, but could throw the ball. He had a couple games where he had over 400 yards passing. And against USC, as a matter of fact, I think he had over 400 yards passing when they lost.
536 to be exact.
I think it was 38-28. I think they lost that game.
Yes, they had 8 turnovers in that game.
Yeah,
that's what cost them.
Yeah, and then compared to Joe Montana, who's not going to run it anywhere, he's not even running down to the store. He'll take a car ride. I mean, he'll take a taxi. But the way he came back, you could tell that this guy had something special. When they played Texas in the Sugar Bowl against, at that time, was Earl Campbell was their running back. When we know how great Earl Campbell was, Joe Montana led them back. And I don't think they won the national championship that year, if I'm not mistaken. I forget who did. They
did.
They did. All right. There you go.
Yes.
There
77.
You go. So there you go.
Yeah.
So I mean, you could tell that this guy had it, right? He wasn't a big guy. He was very skinny. They called him stick man in the pros. Very skinny, but man, that guy was accurate as the day is long and would bring Notre Dame back. So 2 quarterbacks, probably 2 of the best quarterbacks that came out of Notre Dame, not going back to the 20s, because I'm not sure back then. But, I mean, never have they had a quarterback since then. I don't think there's any other quarterback since Montana who has made it to become first string and be a winner, and maybe first string for a while, but hasn't been a winner in the NFL since then, right? Brady Quinn was a bust. The guy that was there last year went to another team because he knows he can't play in the NFL. So, I mean, there hasn't really been another quarterback since then. So
Jimmy Clausen, Ian Book were all just not good.
They weren't good NFL quarterbacks. It's hard, man. It's hard to make that jump, as a lot of young rookie quarterbacks find out. And if you're not on a good team, that makes it even worse. I mean, I think, with Bill Walsh, the head coach of the 49ers, really made it easier for Joe Montana to come in there and start playing well. And same thing with Washington. You had George Allen there, and you had Billy Kilmer and Sonny Jurgensen there, who could kind of teach Joe Theismann. And don't forget, Steve DeBerg was the starting quarterback for the 49ers when Joe Montana ended up there too. Also a very underrated quarterback who was, a first string quarterback on a lot of teams. And he was a great experienced quarterback who could teach younger quarterbacks how to play the professional game. It's 2 different games.
And let's not forget, Mac, Joe Theismann had to go to Canada first.
Yeah.
Play for the Argonauts, yeah.
Well, he was drafted by a team he didn't want to go to.
Oh, gotcha.
So he did that to kind of get out of the draft. I'm trying to remember the team that drafted him. I don't know if it was Minnesota or Detroit. He was drafted, but he didn't want to go there. So he went to Canadian Football League, right? So, like Doug Flutie and a few other guys, that went there first. But anyway, yeah, I mean, Notre Dame still today is one of the biggest schools in the nation when it comes to, national popularity. And who knows what they'll do this year, James. Right? We'll see. So, James, You got Earl the Pearl Monroe. I mean, what a basketball player, a high school. What's how I say a playground legend. This guy was before he even got to school. So, what do you got on the Earl the Pearl Monroe?
Actually, I didn't, Jack. I mean, Mac. I thought I was doing Notre Dame
You were, but I took Notre Dame, so you got Earl the Pearl. I'm just messing with you. I just messed with you.
I don't know much about Earl. Man, you threw a haymaker to my chin.
Yes, it was a curveball that froze you, man. You just seen your face. It was like, what? Wait. You looked like you got notes on this. It was great. Anyway, yes, I took Notre Dame away from you, but you brought me some great stuff that you had. In fact, you ended up giving more information than I did. I just kind of said, "You're right, James." There you go. Anyway, Jason Gonzalez, thank you for coming in today and sharing in the sports memories. We love doing this show. We really do. And good morning to you too, Jason. So let's get to Earl the Pearl Monroe. And, as I was saying, great high school ball player, but he made his name on the playgrounds. He had some unbelievable shots. And he got, where he got the name Earl the Pearl from, James? I mean, I'll start with that. I mean, where do you think he got Earl the Pearl nickname from?
I mean, if I had to guess, I just had to think that it was the style of. I mean, it's smooth, like a pearl. His game had to be smooth. Maybe that's the only thing I can guess.
Well, his shooting was anything but smooth. I mean, they what they said was, another pearl from Earl Monroe. This is how it came, because his shooting style was kind of lackey. I mean, it's kind of, I don't know how to describe it, except he would hesitate in the air before he shot the ball. So he would go up in the air, you would jump with him, and he would stay there, and you would go down and he'd make the shot. It was kind of a fluky Duke shot is what they called it, right? I mean, it was hard to cover this guy when he was shooting the ball. It didn't matter how tall you were, because you would go up like you're going to block it, and he wouldn't release the ball. And then as he's on his way down, he just pop it in. So, I mean, this is the kind of style. It's very, very hard to guard this guy. So he's drafted by the Baltimore Bullets. His rookie year, he has 24.3 points average per game. And, of course, he was the rookie of the year that year. He scored 55 points against the Lakers. So here's the powerful Los Angeles Lakers with, Wilt Chamberlain and all these great, Jerry West and all these guys. And here he is. Wilt Chamberlain goes up for the block. He goes, "No, I'm not going to shoot it now. I'll just wait till you hit the floor, and then I'll shoot it." I mean, it was unbelievable. He averaged 25.8 points per game when they swept the Knicks in that year when they ended up losing to the Lakers. They were beaten by the Knicks the following year, 4-3. In 1971, goes to the NBA Finals, but they're swept by the Milwaukee Bucks. Then he gets traded to the Knicks. And over there at the time was a guy named Walt Frazier, right? So you had Walt Frazier and a very, what's the word I want to say for Walt Frazier? Very outgoing, wearing furs and these crazy hats. He looked like he was pimping out all the time. I mean, he was the big hats and the purple pink suits. I mean, the guy was a very much an entertainer, as you see, going on and calling games. So anyway, yeah,
he was kind of like the Broadway Joe of basketball, right?
All right, great analogy there. So him and Earl Monroe get together in the back. And in 1973, they after losing the year before to the Lakers, they come back and they defeat the Lakers. And Walt Frazier and Earl Monroe are part of the only few of the backcourts that were named to the best backcourt in the last 100 years. I mean, this was a dangerous backcourt they had back then. Monroe, and like I said, he retires in 1980. He's in the College Basketball Hall of Fame. His end of season, his end of career, he had 17,454 points, 2,796 rebounds, 3,594 assists. So he was a good all-around player. But he kind of took a back seat to Walt Frazier, because Walt Frazier, not only was he a great point guard, but he was a great scorer too, right? So Earl of Pearl kind of steps back to let Walt Frazier kind of run the show, but still was pumping in the points when they needed him. Let me see. You ever hear Walt Frazier say "shake and bake"?
No, I haven't.
Well, when he's calling a game, he'll say, he did a shake and bake on him. He did, I'm trying to think of another couple of he has like these rhymes. He's like a poet guy when he's on calling a game. You got to listen to some Nick games. What are you doing? What are you listening to over there? What are you listening to? What's in Louisiana? What basketball team's from Louisiana anyway?
Say it again.
What basketball team is from Louisiana?
Oh, the Pelicans.
Oh, see, you're watching the Pelicans. Their announcers suck. You gotta listen. You gotta listen to Walt Frazier and the way he describes games. Well, in the shake
is
and
he
bake,
he's a color analyst?
Oh yeah, oh definitely. And he's swishing and dishing and shaking and baking. And shake and bake is what they called Earl Monroe's game. So he uses a little bit of Earl's little the way he played basketball. He throws that in there. So I mean, this guy was probably, yes, you are right. Let's see, Jason, right on. One of the first athletes to sign with Puma sneakers. This is correct. So
Walt Frazier was an underrated defender too.
Yes, yeah.
I watched some of the finals against the Lakers, and man, he was in the back pocket of some of those players, stealing the ball and shooting it and bounding and sounding.
That was Walt Frazier. I mean, that's how he talked. I mean, everything, every other of the sentence out of his mouth, he's rhyming. He's quite the poet. But as I said, Earl Monroe, I mean, he did get. I'm trying to think I think he got traded, and he ended up like getting 20. I mean, you slowly start going down. And I don't have in front of me the teams he was traded to, but he did get traded to a couple of teams, and then it drops off to 20.9. Per game. But if you want to talk about one of the best, I don't want to say best James, but a solid player all the time. Another candidate. I mean, 17,000 points isn't a lot, compared to today's scores. I mean, you're talking about Will Chamberlain and LeBron James and Kareem. I mean, you're talking tons and tons of points. But for his time, one of the best players on the floor. And for the Knicks, and again, since that championship, the Knicks haven't made it to a championship again. I mean, you think about how long that's been. They had a good run last year. They now have, their center, a good swing man in there right now, and they're starting five. Right, they kind of broke up that Nova connection they had there. To get their big 6'10" center there who can hit from the outside and also a good passer, can put the ball in the hoop, a good shooter, and can play under the. So a lot of people have the Knicks in the top four favorites of going to the championship this year. What do you think about that?
I think I might be one of them because I that's a strong move. You gave away. I'm not gonna lie, Randall. You can almost say. He wasn't even a part of the mix. They were great last year without Randall. So It's almost a win-win for the Knicks. Like we really didn't. I don't know what we're giving you. We're giving you an injury-riddled player who's good, but based on time when he's not injured.
Right.
But you're giving us a player that's just dominant. I think there's some flaws. Don't get me wrong. Cat has some flaws there, but I think. Working under, he already previously worked under Tom Thibodeau, and I think that's going to do him some wonders defensively. And he's such an excellent offensive player. He stretches. I mean, 6'10", but he can stretch the court because he can shoot from the three. It's going to open a door for other players that are there. But I do think you guys is an underrated loss. The Vincenzo.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a tough one there. I think he was a underrated player for your team. But that's okay. You picked up another guy. I forgot the kid's name that they traded for. What's Malik? What's his name? I forgot.
You talking about earlier?
Yeah, earlier
Before that, I'm trying to remember his name too. I got a brain freeze.
That's a good underrated pick too.
He did play with Brunson also, and I think he was from Nova too. So I mean,
yeah, Nova, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's not bad there. And DiVincenzo was there too, but
DiVincenzo was off the bench. He was an off the bench player, came in and gave you a little energy, right? So I think he'll start. He'll start for Minnesota, right? That's where he went to Minnesota.
Yeah, he went to Minnesota. Yeah,
and I think if Randall is healthy, he's a very good player. I mean, I've been saying he's the best, but he's close. He's close because Randall did help them build towards getting to where the position they're in now. He was with the Knicks for a while. He just couldn't stop getting injured. So he was a very good assist guy, good shooter, and could go under the boards, and was a rebounding machine. Right? I think he's like 24 and 10 is his stats. Very good. But I think you're right. I think Cat does something. He's a good passer. As you saw him play a two-man game with him and Brunson last game they played, give and goes and setting screens. And I mean, and who are you going to come once you're guarding Brunson, who's what, 6 foot,
right,
6'1", and all of a sudden now here's Cat in front of you at 6'10". Of course, he's going to shoot over you, right? So I mean, it's just I think it's going to be a good two-man game, a good screen game for him, and that's not discounting Obi-Wan Kenobi there, right? Obi-Wan Anunoby, who's going to be, at forward. He's going to get his things now because as you said, of the floor is going to open up if he's healthy, and that's the thing about Obi-Wan Anunoby too.
I think the Knicks are loaded. Honestly, this is a year that they might go for a run for the finals. We'll see, but I really think when I saw that move, I was stunned because I think Minnesota's going to take a step back because of that.
Maybe, but I think they got a draft choice too. I'm not mistaken. I think they got a draft or maybe two, maybe a first round and second round plus. Jason Gonzalez, he's got a new nickname too. I mean, did Walt Frazier give it to him? That's all I want to know, Jason. If Walt Frazier gave it to him, it's got to be outstanding. No, we haven't heard. Let us know what it is.
What is it, Cat in a Hat?
I don't know. Jason knows. I don't know. So anyway, yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward. And listen, like I said, 73, James. We got close. We almost won with Ewing that one year. He didn't have a Robin. He was Batman. He had no Robin, really. Starks was streaky. And really their forwards, and I'm trying to read, I know Mason was one of them. Oakley was the other. They were really not shooters, right? They hit 15 points or whatever, but they weren't somebody that could dominate when Ewing was off or could play off Ewing like they got here right now. All right, there you go. The big bodega. Okay. There you go.
The big bodega.
I don't know.
Okay. And Mason and Oakley were more like enforcers. Yeah.
Right. That's what they were. She had Starks and even when you had the forward there that played football before, it was a point guard for him.
Oh yeah, you're talking about Larry Johnson?
No, not Larry Johnson. He played point guard. Charlie Ward.
Oh, Charlie Ward. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, Charlie Ward, and then you had the other point forward that went on to become a coach and that set up Golden State. They didn't go anywhere with him, so they ended up replacing him.
Jackson.
Right, Mark Jackson. So anyway, folks, that's it from here. We covered 4 different topics. Next week we should have Jack back so we can get into and use his brain a little bit, which is always a dangerous place to go. And we'll see what happens. We love doing the show. Love all the views and likes and loves and potential shares we get. So next week we'll be back with the Sports Memory Show tomorrow. don't miss the big football show. We got a lot of stuff going on in football. And we'll give you our picks, top 3, and picks against the game. And, of course, we encourage everyone to give us their picks, too, as we're keeping score all the time. And James right now is riding the Giants, and I'm a little nervous. I'm a little nervous about him riding my Giants because I can't touch him. I can't touch him. I'm scared to bet with the Giants now. Every time I bet with them, they lose. So I'm just not betting. I'm not betting.
Is it Cincinnati?
Yeah, it's Cincinnati, and they're getting 3.5 or 3 points. It dropped. It dropped from 7.5 to 3.5. So
the Giants they played a pretty good game against Seattle.
They dominated, James. Let's be honest. They dominated Seattle. Let's be we beat the hell out of Seattle.
Pretty much.
Yes. Cincinnati, a different animal, though, right? I mean, they got to be able to. That young Deontay Banks has got to have another big game. The Giants' defensive backfield got to play good again, tackle in the open field, keep them hemmed in a little bit, put some pressure on Burrow, and hopefully we can run the ball against that Cincinnati. The defense is not that great.
It's not good at all.
And their
but
defense,
I don't know. You start giving the Giants a little bit of confidence. You start giving them a little bit. You got guys that aren't even playing. You know, you had Slayton and you had Tyrone Tracy. You didn't even have your starters in, and everybody next man up mentality went in. That could feed into a locker room some confidence.
Yeah, Theo Johnson's a big one. I think Thibodeau is out also with Neighbors. He's out too, so he'll be out tomorrow. But we'll get to that in the big football show. I got a lot of injuries. Man, there's a lot of injuries this week. My injury.
Everybody's got injuries.
So it goes on for 2 pages of people out. I'm not just talking about people questionable, just people out. I mean, it's crazy. But I got some good picks for you tomorrow. Hopefully, I go at least 2-1 again, and I start climbing back in that race there because I picked terrible in the beginning.
I still haven't picked yet. I'll send my picks today or tomorrow.
You bet.
But man.
You bet.
And we definitely got to talk about our fantasy, man.
Tomorrow.
We're getting cream. Yes.
You're up to date with that? Yeah, but it's not our fault. Friggin', we can't put in the players we want to put in, James.
I know.
I'm trying to be fair because we're saying just off injuries. If we could put some of our players in, we might be winning this damn thing. But it's early. That's the great thing.
It's early,
right? It's early. So we'll see what happens. Folks, again, thanks for joining us. See you tomorrow on the Big Football.